I say in order to heal it, you have to feel it, which is the shittiest part. I know people just want to walk around and we're told that we have to be happy and joyful and just abundant and awesome and in this great energy all the time. And that's just not sustainable. We have to realize that we've lived our lives conditioned and repressed on certain emotions. And unfortunately, that could have been brought onto you by a shitty significant other, a sibling, a parent. Hey, you know what? If your mom was sick, then it was probably always put on you that you needed to keep your shit together because we got to worry about mom. All that did was tell you that your emotions are not important and that mom is more important than you. You are not a high of enough value because mom's here and you need to calm your shit because mom's more important. So we all have these, we're conditioned and repressed, and then we have these emotions, and then we have these body pains and anxiety and all these things that we deal with. And we're like, I've had the shoulder thing for 12 years and I just don't know where it comes from. And it's like, dude, you're angry about some shit and we need to figure it out. So I've been in like a deep journey.
So like musculoskeletal can be
tied, yes.
Like, or tied to some emotional type of knots that you might be tied up in. That
yes.
Maybe even in your own mind, you don't even realize are there because you've built up this subconscious to glide you by it so you don't have to feel it.
Yeah.
Like
so when you think about when you have pain, again, doesn't mean that it won't show up in other areas, but a lot of times it's on the back. You know why? Because I can hide it back there. You're looking at my front and my face. Up here is good. Don't worry about what's back there. Don't look at that. So I can hide it. So a lot of back pain, tightness, stuff in my legs, stuff in my back, stuff in my low back, stuff in my shoulders. You tend to have these. That's not to say that everything is from that. Sure, you can go do this, get this done. Like, I know there's going to be somebody that's like, what? Because I share this stuff pretty openly on my social media. But for me, this was a journey that I had to walk on because I've more stepped now into this thing where it's like one of my now visions and things is like, I have to help people with stuff like this. Like, it's sort of this, like, you figured it out. Now you got to carry this to others because people need it. So not only are you helping people who struggle with migraine and with these chronic neurological issues and the stuff that I like to focus on, but in unpacking that for people, there's a lot of emotional baggage that comes with that, from sexual abuse, trauma, family abuse, just things that have created that. And now that's why they're there. So yes, there are structural things that we can still work on in order to fix, but there's a lot of emotional baggage that comes with that. So for me, 2020 was an amazing year. It was also a year of like a crazy shit show.
Yeah.
And then that year was awesome. We had like some crazy blow up on social media through TikTok. Like, that literally like exploded my business. Very fortunately during COVID, because we were able to sustain and actually grow during COVID, even with all that stuff going on, which was awesome. Great. It was a massive benefit. And then in 2021, in 2020, I had a girl that started working with me, and then I lost her in 2021. And I was like, well, let me see if I can sustain this by myself. And I did. I was able to maintain the months that we were doing through basically a whole year by myself. It's a shit show to try to do it. Again, this is that whole need a team. And it's like, I have the other docs and my other team that we have, but inside of my office, it's just me. And in the fall of 2021, my sister calls me up and she tells me that my parents are getting a divorce. So my stepmom and my dad are getting a divorce. And something in me that hit this weird deep thing in me of like, if they don't love each other anymore, that fucked up this stuff inside of me of like, am I capable of being loved? Am I loving myself? Like, meeting my dad when I was 8 and just all these little like childhood things for me, it's like that stuff is in there of like the things that make me who I am are also the things that probably sort of wounded and scarred me of like, dude, I gotta have this energy because me having this energy is what will attract you to me, and then I will win you over and you'll like me. And I just want you to like me and recognize me because that just feels really good for me. But also in that, there was a lot of healing that I've had to work on in, if my parents don't love them, then am I worthy of love? Like, I had this weird, like, immediately just like boom, fractured
like if
thing
that
in me.
Means that, then this means this. And
that was the example of love for me. Like, for both sides of my parents, but it's like that.
You also
sort
modeled your career to a degree. So if they can't make it work, can I?
So
am
it just
I on the
fractured
wrong
a lot of things. It's like I have a foundation, and now it's fucked up, and I'm like, and immediately I was like, I don't have time to deal with this, so I'm just gonna work harder.
Ah, yes, very familiar.
Yeah, so
let's go.
I am getting ready to have my second child. I'm running a business. I'm doing shit. I met Sarah at that point. I know I've got another doc that's going to be joining me. Like, I got shit to do. I don't have time for this. Well, my body said, sir, you're not making yourself a priority, so I'm going to make this a priority.
Or you think you were just slamming cortisol levels as the end of 2021?
I wasn't eating well. I wasn't taking care of myself.
Were you working out?
Like, I was, but even there's only so much of that it could do. Yeah, it's like and again, I wear like a Whoop. I track all that stuff. Like, I'm a nerd about taking care of myself, and I have all these, I've actually got a book that is an ebook that's coming out that's for my migraine audience. That's like all the tips and strategies that I have. I put them in one book because in my social media, everybody's like,
yes. Do you have a title for that thing yet?
Yeah, so it's called the Migraine Doc Method.
Love it.
It's a migraine warrior's guide to freedom. We're literally getting ready to launch it next month.
That's awesome.
But in that, I have all the things that I needed to do to get out of the place where I was. And I'm the guy that tells everyone to do that. But guess what? I was fucking lost, dude. I was spiraling out of control.
Did you ever wake up in the morning and go, kind of wouldn't have hurt my feelings if I didn't wake up this morning?
Yes. It would be easier. Like, if this just happened, my life insurance would kick in, my wife and family would be okay, and like I wouldn't have to worry about this anymore.
That takes a lot of courage to admit, man. I've been there too.
There's been plenty of times where I'm like, you know what, it might just be easier. And for anyone, again, if we're recording and listening, for anyone, it's like, it's very easy to have that conversation and to go through that process and to just, again, there's nothing wrong with you if your brain goes through that. That's how your head works. Would it just be easier if I just wasn't here?
Right.
It's just a question, and it's just a subtle little whisper that just has to come in there. And you're like, I don't know. And for me, I'd like to think very logically. And so I'm just like, well, what would that look like? And what is this? And then, of course, the other side of me is like, but then my kids grow up without, I leave my wife solo. My kids grow up without a dad. I'm not there to be able to make sure that I can make that. And I have very big visions and very big dreams and very big things that I'm trying to work towards. And all that ends. So you wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. Yep. But who's going to do that?
Yep.
Like, you feel like you're the one that's called to do this. So if you're not going to do it, then who's going to do it? Now I got to pick someone else. So it's, there was just so much stuff going on around that time. I moved my office. I wasn't even moving that far. But even that scared the shit out of me because I'm like, what if people just say, well, I'm not going anymore because you're not doing that, which is dumb. We moved like 2 blocks away from where we were. It's had zero issue. But I was having weird things. I'm like, is this new office? Is there an energy in here? I was terrified to be in that office by myself. That was my fear of being alone. Dude, I would go in there and I would break down in tears. I couldn't be in there. I would hyperventilate. I scared the shit out of my wife. My wife was like, I've never seen you like this. You're not that person. Because I'm annoyingly optimistic. She's like, we're going to lose everything. And I'm like, no, I'm going to figure out a way. I'm always that person. And now she sees me like this and she's like, are you like, what is going on here?
Sure.